Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel, and welcome back to Midtown Farm USA. This is episode number 14. We are in a brand new game day from when we were last together, and what we did when we were last together, if my memory is correct, is that we opened up field number 14. We plowed, fertilized, plowed, and cultivated field number 14 in sort of a just in case kind of scenario in the event that, if our wheat fields and our barley field does not basically come in with enough time for us to essentially turn it around and put soybeans on the field, that we would then have sort of a plan B as far as getting soybeans. And so right now we have a hired worker working over in field number 15, spraying liquid fertilizer on the barley field. I believe that is barley. Let me just double check because that's what I wanted to do. It is barley. So basically these are the three fields here that we're going to be flipping around post haste, hopefully. 16 is wheat, 17 wheat, and then obviously 15, like I said, is barley. So we are going to head over to, where are we headed? We're going to head over to field number 17, and we are going to spray that for the third and final time, or give it a third helping of liquid fertilizer to bring the fertilization up to the highest level, and therefore the yield opportunities also up to the highest level. Because again, we're in this for a business, so we might as well make sure that we are getting our money's worth, because it really and truthfully, it takes the same amount of effort as far as the harvester is concerned, as far as the number of hours that it basically takes to harvest the field, regardless of whether we have low yield or medium yield or high yield, and I'm referring to kind of fertilization layers there. Obviously, it's a little more effort with the higher yield scenarios with regards to the carting and everything like that, because obviously if we were not getting as much yield from the crop, then obviously we wouldn't have as much as we would need to essentially transport or haul back to the main farm or to the sell point or whatever the case is there. But there goes again, if you don't have it, you can't sell it, and we want to be able to sell it. So therefore we're going to essentially try to get as much yield as we possibly can from this. And I'm sort of hopeful, again, as I sort of talked about in the previous episode, I'm certainly hopeful that that all this is going to come in and it's going to work for us the way that we have wanted it to, hoped it could, excited about it, and all those kind of things. Because again, this is somewhat uncharted territory for me to be able to take advantage of a wonderful wonderful weather geo that obviously is built into this wonderful map to be able to spin our crops around like this, and double harvest in the same game year. And this is done, this is obviously done in the real world. Before the Seasons mod came out, I began playing excuse me. Before the Seasons mod came out, I began playing Farm Sim 17 with the Seasons approach. You guys might remember, especially if you were around back in the very early days of FS17, there was a mod which essentially modified the clock, the date and clock format, and you could simulate, and that really all it was simulating seasons. It really didn't affect the game layers and that sort of thing. Obviously, that's what the Seasons mod does, but you could, in your mind, even though it was more or less a combination of spring, summer, fall. That's sort of the vanilla aspects of Farm Sim 17, is that you kind of have sort of a blend of spring, summer, fall with every game day, because you can plant one day, you can harvest a couple of game days later if you accelerate things, and then you can just sort of rinse and repeat, and you have no factoring conditions that limit your abilities to do any of that. So I was playing with the seasonal approach, and I had done quite a bit of research. I had went out to many university agricultural websites, programs, and such, and read about different behaviors from, say, Texas, with like Texas A&M as an example, Colorado State University, Kansas, etc., and had sort of looked at, and can we? No, we cannot. So let me back up and try to do a better approach with that so we don't bend that boom. But I had done this research and sort of had said when I first started playing around with this seasonal approach, I think I probably said in the video that, you know, regardless of kind of where the map is located, I'm going to kind of do a blend of things, and we're going to kind of take sort of several of these programs, this information with regards to wheat and barley and canola, etc., and just kind of blend it in and take some averages. But essentially, I was sort of looking at being able to do this exact same thing. And I think in some of those very early videos where I was, or very early series when I was doing that seasonal approach, and I think that's what I called it. That's exactly what I was doing. Was I was sort of simulating the fact that we would have a warm spring, warm ground temperatures, be able to get the wheat and barley in the ground, for that to germinate and basically be able to produce a crop that could be harvested within a short span of time, within, say, that early or midsummer time frame, and then be able to come around and put another crop on it on that same field and harvest that before winter. And then of course Seasons mod came along, and I very quickly abandoned my manual approach to seasonal farming. But it was something that, and again, when I came up with my whole scheme of doing things on a seasonal basis, and the research that I did and everything, it was all in an effort to try to, at least within my mind, within the role playing that I do in my mind, if I'm not role playing on the videos in itself, was to try to formulate a way that we could say, okay, it's spring, it's summer, it's fall, it's winter, what have you. So it was a great kind of a great thing to do, and again, it sort of opened up the world, at least to my own mind, my own way that I sort of orchestrate things. And not so sure if I would say, well, you know, I talk to myself or anything like that, but no, I mean, I think that we all, maybe before the Seasons mod came out, you know, we all sort of thought about things in the real terms, in the real world, and trying to apply that. And I suppose it was before the Seasons mod, it was maybe that that vision of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. But I've always subscribed to the theory that a square peg will go in a round hole. You just need to make sure that you have a big enough hammer to basically force it to do that, because it, of course, will go in. So let me grab my screenshot for this, for the thumbnail for this episode, and I will be right back. All right, thumbnail is in the books there, so that is fantastic. We can now continue to roll on and apply our liquid fertilizer. Now, of course, we're applying sort of a mixture of effort here. We've got liquid fertilizer, and then obviously, you know, herbicides, things like that, to kind of keep the pests and everything from eating into our crops, because, you know, we lose a lot of damage, or we lose a lot of crop, a lot of yield to pests and things like that. And so basically being able to come in and address those things and nip them in the bud, so to speak, before they become a problem is kind of key, I think. I do like this horse equipment. If you have not played around with it on your virtual farm, then certainly go and grab it. It is free. It is available in the Giants Mod Hub. I have a link to that in my on my mod spreadsheet, and I will just go ahead and plug that while we're sitting here talking about things like that. If you go to grizzlybearsims.com, I have a mod spreadsheet. It's a Google, basically it's just a Google document spreadsheet, and I have that, and I keep that updated as best as I possibly can. And I would have to say that it is probably 98, 99% current or accurate, meaning that all the mods that I typically am using today within my series, whether that be Thornton Farm, which obviously has a lot more mods in it than MidTown and Tazewell County, just simply because MidTown and Tazewell County I am running the more realistic mod and trying to take advantage of the more realistic features and functionality of the equipment. All the default equipment are more realistic compatible. Many of the mods are not, and I really have not taken the time, and that's really on me, I suppose. I've not taken the time to go out and dig through the mod sites and everything to necessarily find more realistic compatible equipment. I suppose that where I just feel is necessary, things that I can't live without, like for example on this map, the one thing that sort of comes to mind is I'm using the pickup, the field service pickup there. It's not, I don't believe it's more realistic compatible. It probably couldn't be, because I don't think I've updated that since possibly it came out soon after 17 came out. So, you know, but I use it in limited capacity, and it's just kind of just driving around, and it's looking, you know, it kind of looks nice. It looks the part on an active farm, and it gives us the ability to it certainly gives us the ability to service our equipment and everything in the field, meaning add seeds and fuel and fertilizer and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of cool. So I don't know. I don't think that we're going to get. I don't think we're going to get this field completely done with the liquid fertilizer that we have on board. I think we may end up having to go back to the main farm at some point to refill, and it's probably a good time to just go ahead and do that when we get up here close to the road. We'll just go ahead and cut our losses, because again, I don't know if we can complete it. Plus, obviously, we're gonna probably want to go and field and do something else. Maybe spray something else. Maybe not during this episode, but at least I will probably do that off camera. So we will just go ahead and remember where we left off and head back to the main farm and go ahead and fill up our spray unit here, just so that we have enough, because I would rather fill it up now when we're sort of close by the main farm, when we're close by the fill points and everything, than essentially wait until we're way up there on the hill and then run out and then have to make the trek all the way down. So I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. How are you doing? How's your 2018 treating you? I'm not really sure when you guys are going to be watching this episode. I am still very much in a queue situation. I've got many videos that are queued up and ready to go. Most of them are edited, rendered, even uploaded and everything, and just ready to drop based on the date that I want them released. So I'm thinking this is going to come out in possibly in late January, the 20th something. I'm still trying to figure out kind of how I'm going to fit in, how I'm going to handle a schedule of 3 series. I'm still undecided as to really what the future holds for Thornton Farm with regards to whether or not that's going to see a second season on that wonderful map. I had never played Thornton Farm. I had not played it in 15, and so I had not played it when it immediately came out for 17. And so I do like me a British style map. Oxygen David and Bullet Bill are two of my favorite that obviously make those types of maps. And so I sort of fell in love with the way that the map looked and the general idea of things, and I kind of realized that we would not be driving through our crop in this fashion. We would have made our tram lines and everything at the end of the field, but there's a kind of a fine line between um, reality and just kind of doing things. So anyway, it is what it is. But so I'm not real sure. I think that maybe trying to juggle 3 series for me. I know other people do it and they do it quite well. But for me, I'm still working. You know, an easy week is probably 45 hours. And maybe a mediocre is about 50, and a week from where is possibly like 60 hours, especially if there's travel involved. And so those things are still very much part of my life. I am aware of a couple of trips that I'll be taking in late spring in the real world, work-related trips, and my wife and I are actually planning our European vacation for this year. That'll be the 2018 version of European vacation for us. We will be headed to Belgium in August and into September, so it'll probably leave towards the end of August, and then kind of take advantage of the time off that we have for the U.S. Labor Day holiday to sort of factor that into our vacation and everything. And then we'll spend about 9 days in Belgium and about 5 days or so in the English countryside. And so quite looking forward to that. So anyway, let's see, what else was I going to say? So I think the last weekend, and I'm recording this episode on the 13th of January, if I can squeeze past that pole there without bending it too bad. I'm recording this episode on Saturday, the 13th of January. And I think the last time that we were together for a Midtown USA episode was last weekend, and I think I had mentioned perhaps in this episode, or maybe when I was recording something for Thornton Farm, that I had some honeydew projects all lined up. And this is actually the weekend of the 13th of January for me is a 3-day weekend. Monday is Martin Luther King holiday, and so that is one of our company holidays. So I have been back to work from our winter break for a whopping 9 days, and we'll come back and hit that here momentarily. For a whopping 9 days, 4 work days the first week, obviously, and then a full 5-day schedule on the second week. And I am exhausted. I'm just literally exhausted from having been off for 10 days at Christmas and New Year, and then coming back and enduring 9 work days. I am ready for the 3-day weekend. So we have got, I think, again, the last time we were together, I was recording episodes was the weekend before, which was probably like the 6th of January, something like that. I tore the tile off the fireplace, and my wife hated that tile. She's hated it from the day that we bought the house, and that was a dozen years ago or so. And so it's kind of taken, we've done some things, we've done some improvements to our home a little bit at a time, kind of thing, as people do. I mean, we had you know, we've just wanted to do things the way that we wanted to do them, and um, to wait until we were ready, all that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, I guess we're ready for the fireplace tile project, because that's what I started on last weekend, was basically taking the tile off. And funnily enough, the tile came off relatively easy. You know, I don't know when the tile was put down. It was not original. It was probably done maybe 15 years ago, so maybe a few years before we bought the house. And so looks like our hired worker is in need of some fertilizer over there, so we'll take care of that at the end of the video, or off camera. So anyway, got the tile pulled off, and like I said, that went relatively well in the grand scheme of things. Some of it was a little harder to take off than others, but you know, big hammer and chisel, pry bar, you know, enough force, it will give, it will go, and I did win in the long run. And so this weekend, the weekend of the 13th, and again, this is a 3-day weekend for us, we will be basically getting things ready to retile. I don't know if we'll be retiling today, Saturday the 13th. I've got to replace some of the concrete backer board that was sort of around the edge of the chimney or the edge of the fireplace, and basically it's a fireplace insert into a fireplace, and I'm guessing that the fireplace insert is not original. I'm guessing that maybe 15 years ago the house was flipped. It was purchased from the original homeowner who had passed away, and then somebody flipped it, and because that was, you know, back in the time when that sort of activity was popular, and they flipped it and then basically sold it, and essentially sold it to us. And in any event, I think that was when the fireplace insert was put in. And so again, we're going to leave the fireplace insert. We're just changing the tile around the perimeter of the fireplace, and then on the hearth. We've got a hearth, if you're not familiar with that word. It's just the bench, if you will, that's out in front of the fireplace. It's sort of elevated. It's about 12 to 14 inches high off the floor area, and it is just you know, you can sit on it if you want to, and so that area is also going to be tiled as well. So let me change the camera position here so we're not looking down upon it like it's a airplane. So that is essentially our job for this weekend, this long weekend. I'm kind of hoping that, again, I don't know if we'll get this 100% finished. We'll just have to kind of see how much progress we can do. We did go ahead and go to the home improvement store last night to pick up all the material that we needed. We sort of figured it would be much less stressful and everything to go on Friday evening than it would be to go on a Saturday. You know, Saturdays are probably the busiest day for these home improvement stores, and certainly a Saturday of a 3-day weekend, even though, you know, not everyone is off on Monday, but you know, quite a few are, that we would just take advantage of that and do that. So all right, so we're going to kind of back away from our crops here, and we'll go back down the hill, and we will need to take care of that one strip that runs down the length of the field there at the end of this little dog leg. And that will pretty much probably bring us to the close of this episode. According to my timer, we are at about 24 minutes or so, and so most likely by the time that I start rambling here, doing all my closing arguments and everything, and get started fertilizing, spraying this, and get to the end of the field, and then get this thing back to the main farm, we'll be talking about 28 to 29 minutes or so, I'm sure, for the episode. And I like to, you know me, I like to keep my episodes at 30 minutes. I think those are wonderful magic numbers. I think everybody sort of likes that amount of time. and it works well for me, and I know it works well for many of you all as well, because I know you have other videos that you want to watch, and I hope you do watch those other videos. As a matter of fact, speaking of other videos, by the way, I do believe there is a mod, and I have not bothered to download it and take a look at it, but I believe that there is a mod that allows us to essentially change our and I'm going to have to kind of cheat just a little bit here because of this fence line, but I believe that there is a mod that allows you to turn off one side of your sprayer boom. And for those of you that have been with my channel since the FS15 days, or the Farm Sim 15 days, you know that I often talked about that. I talked about the feasibility and thought that it was something that possibly would be available in the real world to do, because again, you know, it's all about efficiencies, and if you're in a situation like this where you've already sprayed a portion of the crop, and obviously you don't want to spray out there in the street and everything, I would think that there would be a way that you could turn off, not necessarily fold those booms, because obviously it's all balanced. It's all a balanced thing, and if you were to fold one side and leave the other side hanging out there, the tractor would either lean or it would flip over, one of the two, maybe both. But anyway, there is that mod that's available. I just haven't taken a look at it yet. So let's see. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so other videos. I know you guys watch other YouTubers, and I encourage that. I have a list down below my video of some of my favorite YouTube content creators that basically produce content here on Farm Sim, and they do a wonderful job at that as well. Very, very good, clean, wholesome videos and content that they do on a regular basis. And of course, many of these individuals are people that I consider very good and close friends in the simulation-based gaming community, and so I encourage you to go out and take a look at their channels and subscribe to them, like their videos, all that good stuff, just like you treat me. And by the way, if you're watching my channel and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. That's a good indicator to me that I'm doing good, that I'm doing the right things, I'm putting the content out there, my episodes and everything are entertaining to you, and I know I have a different way of doing things just like anyone else has, and I try to do a mixture of role play and just speak to you all about things that's happening in my life and my world. And of course, I encourage you all to provide feedback into what you're doing in your worlds and everything. And so anyway, without further ado, let me go ahead and say thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you watching my videos. I appreciate you engaging with me over on Discord, and hanging out over on PCSG and the Three Dudes Gaming Network, etc. So I know that I talked about in the last episode, I know I mentioned mowing and baling and all that good stuff, and we had rain that came through on day one, and we have possibly rain in the forecast for today, or at least that's the way it was looking. So I really was in a wet crop situation towards the end of game day number one. And I think you can still mow grass under wet crop situation, but that wouldn't be very realistic, especially in the fact that we need to obviously tether, rake it, and get it picked up all in the same game day, because we don't want to be penalized for the midnight transition, and how we lose crop if we leave it on the fields. So I opted to wait and do that on a clear day, on a good day, a day that we didn't have wet crop, or we didn't have a threatening chance of rain. So we're most likely will mow when we come back together for the next episode. And just the crop status here, we're looking good here. Let's see how far he almost got all the way done over there on field 15. That's a bad time to run out of fertilizer there, but we'll get that cleaned up, and then we'll proceed off camera and fertilize some more of these fields. So I think maybe if we're lucky and our crops, our wheat and barley, come in as we hope them to, we'll have one more episode where we'll probably do some mowing, and then hopefully that will position us at a good location to hopefully those crops will be coming in and we'll be harvesting some wheat. So until next time, thank you again for watching. Take good care of yourselves and each other. God bless you all, and come back again here for the Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel very soon. Bye-bye for now.